can the Gators break through and do something they haven't done since 2013? I think was the last time we had a top 5 recruiting class.
I think so. Either 13 or 14, probably. Probably no, I don't think 14. Yeah,
no, it wasn't 14.
12 or 13, probably. Yeah.
Since Will Muschamp at the very least here.
Yeah.
But last year we saw a lot of progress towards it getting our highest grading since I think it was that 2013 class as well. So it's been a while since Florida's recruited inside that highly rated range. Last year, you get 5 points off of a top 5. So you're kind of close there if you could just got maybe one more higher level player. But it could take a lot to get that higher level player right there. And you look at our current class. Our current class is ranked 14th right now. Let me pull up where it is. I lost it actually, but here we go.
14th on the composite.
Yep, I'm trying to get the exact points. So 253.25. Now, the difference between 15th, which is FSU at 252.7, and 8th, which is Michigan at 262.78. So there's a 10-point difference between 15th and 8th. So again, we just landed one good player, which we'll talk, and one that we could land soon. We'll talk about later that could push us there. You're in the top 8, but then here's where the big part comes. The difference between 8 and 7 is also 10 points. With LSU at 272, and I already said Michigan at 262. And then 6 is another 6 points. And then all the way up to top 5 is another 9 points. So there's still a long way to go. But I see a small path for it.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at last year and you look at all the noise Florida made at the end, you still have to take some lower-ranked players like an Eddie Pierre-Lewis and Jahari Medlock. You took Dice instead of maybe going after a Solomon Thomas, who was ranked in the 40s at the end of the cycle there. So it's like those players could have been a difference. But right now, you have a very solid foundation to your class. As I mentioned earlier, 9 players inside that top 220. Last cycle, you took, I think it was 7 players in total inside the top 200. But you had multiple 5-stars and multiple top 55 level recruits there. This year, our highest ranked player is only 99th. Now, you're going to need to get some players inside that top 50. And if you want to get inside the top 5, you're probably going to need a top 20 rated 5-star. I think if you look at the 5-stars right now, or if you look at the rankings right now, who is that 5-star? Because I'm looking here. And
I mean, it's like Braylon Womack. It's got to be like a Braylon Womack.
That's where I was about to get, who's 21st.
Yeah.
Now,
12th on the composite. No, sorry. I'm not looking at composite. You're right.
Yeah, so you look at Braylon Womack, who's ranked 21st, projected to go to Ohio State. Now, there has been some talks that because of the new NIL and house settlement rules that Ohio State's deal isn't as large as people thought it would be to make him a lock to Ohio State. I still hear Ohio State is still the team to beat, but I know Texas A&M has made some noise in that recruitment. Maybe Florida can also make some noise there and also try to get into a bidding war. He's not supposed to commit until August 22nd, maybe?
Yeah.
Is that the exact date or August 22nd? Yep. Okay. Wow.
Nice. Sniped it.
I did. But yeah, so you're looking there. That's probably at this moment in the rankings, the highest level player you could get. I mean, Cedarian Morgan committed to Bama. It's like we saw a slip Dallas Wilson last year that probably no one saw coming until it really happened. I think that's one that could be a potential to happen. But outside of that, of the current ranked 5-stars, I don't know if there's another one. Again, maybe a Caden Prothero who just committed to Georgia yesterday. But I think then after you look at Braylon Womack, that's at this point, the high levels, that's like a 10-point difference right there, maybe, depending on how high you're getting. The next highest rated player you could probably maybe even get is Jake Krull, who's ranked 31st, virtually a 5-star out of IMG. But he just had a top 3 that didn't even include Florida. Now, we've seen players go to schools they didn't list inside their top couple schools, and he's not going to be committed for a long time. So there's still a long ways to go there. But that you probably need to land both of those guys or to even have a chance at that top 5 class, or at least one of them.
Yeah, and I mean, Cruel, like, I mean, obviously, you mentioned not Gators, not a finalist for him, according to him. I mean, obviously, there's nothing official about that. He could change his mind at any point. Questions. I mean, do you think like it's even realistic to get Cruel after getting Ford and some of the other guys you've gotten in this class? Like, do you really like? Do you think Florida's even like pushing for him anymore?
I think there still is some communication going on there. I don't think it's totally out of the waters because
Okay.
he's a true edge rusher, like a
Hmm.
Ford. Because like I mean, they originally were going to take Henderson and Ford until LSU was able to get Henderson in like that last couple of days. So
Hmm.
there is still is room for that second edge rusher that they would still want to take.
Okay. Well, and that probably means if they were anticipating taking Ford and Henderson, that means that Ford, whatever they're giving Ford, in terms of pay, was already baked in. So, whatever not
I got
getting
this.
Henderson freed up, you could maybe send it toward Cruel.
Yeah, Rob. So the reason this is happening, and let me double check because I'm pretty sure I know exactly why. I just want to be 100% sure here. So Texas currently has 18 commits, the same as us. Their average is 90.79. Ours is 91.42. So nearly, so like point 0.7 a higher average than us. So you wonder, like, hey, why is their class ranked higher? I'll tell you Texas three lowest commits. Punter Mikey Bukakis out of Texas, kicker Jake Collett out of Georgia, and long snapper Trot O'Neill. So they have a kicker, punter, and long snapper committed to them, which, I mean, these are guys that you could argue should even be counted towards your ranking
Yeah.
because I mean, all three combined maybe give you a point.
Yeah, I don't think they ever rate specialists higher than 3 stars. Like if you want actual rate, like if you want actual like gradation ratings of kickers, you got to go to like Cole's kicking or like one of the kicking like specialists.
All so the punter and kicker are ranked as a 3-star, and the long snapper is ranked as a 2-star.
Yeah.
And your recruiting ranking is mostly based on like your top 10 commits, which they have 2 5-stars, a guy ranked 36, 57th. So their top 4 commits are all ranked higher than our top 1 commit. So that's why Texas class is still ranked higher than us. Although, I mean, we're not too far off right now,
Hmm.
as it is a 7 point difference between us and Texas.
Yeah, so I mean, so let me just see. Yeah, I mean, so like just I mean, like intuitively, they should probably be ranked higher. Like they have 2 4 star or 2 5 stars. Like
Oh, yeah.
so I'm saying like yeah, in spite of the rating, the weirdness with the rating, like it kind of just intuitively makes sense that they would be higher to me.
Yep. So I think then the next group of players that you can maybe look at that Florida would need to land to get a top 5 class, like that next tier of 4-star guys. One, Davian Gross, athlete out of Frisco, Texas. There was a lot of smoke towards Florida, but Oklahoma's put a lot into this recruitment. And again, we talked about Oklahoma's receiving room being very bare earlier today in the show. They can guarantee Gross starting time like right away. Well, Florida got a 5-star Vernell Brown in this slot last cycle, and we got Justin Williams, who's a guy who he's only ranked in the 230s, but he only just started getting ranked, so he has room to still continue to grow. So it would still be nice. And I wouldn't say we have no chance of still landing him or flipping him if he commits to Oklahoma, but and that distance I hear is a big factor for him. So I wouldn't really count us on landing him at this moment. The next players, maybe you go further down the board. I think Isaiah Williams, who's ranked 54th, committed to Ole Miss. We've discussed that recruitment plenty on this channel and has been committed to 5 schools. Florida's going to be in touch with him, and I still have the opinion that come signing day, he will end up with Florida right in our backyard from the 352 out of Tavares near Leesburg. So I think that's when we do land, but you got to land multiple of these guys inside that top 55.
Yeah, I mean, getting Williams back in the class would go a long way. I mean, yeah, I think that the issue here, because I don't think mathematically it's that hard to see how it could happen. Like it's
No.
Florida has 18 commits. If they add 4 or 5 more and they're high level guys, you'll get there. I think that, I mean, the issue is right now, it's just that that's going to require, I think, things like circumstances changing, because there's not really a battle you can point to where it's like, well, this guy hasn't committed yet, and Florida's got a really good shot here. Like there isn't really that guy right now among the high level recruits, at least. A guy we haven't mentioned who's a little lower rated, but still pushing into that top 50 range. I'm actually curious or top 150 range. I mean, because you kind of have a little more insight on these battles than I do. Is Florida still pushing for Samorion Wingo?
Yes, that's a really good thing to make. I was just actually looking for the class calculator, and yeah, I still expect Samorion Wingo to be in this class. Okay. I think yesterday an article was written about his recruitment and really the two SEC schools, Florida and South Carolina, separating themselves. And he had a really interesting quote saying that he's going to ready to commit when his agent gives him the word. So a lot of just talk about money, and it's someone I expect to be in this class.
Interesting.
And I was actually about to put in the numbers for the calculator because you're looking 285 to 295 to be that top 5 range. Mm-hmm. Last cycle, it was higher than most years, and first place was lower, but 5th place was higher. So I think that's another thing you have to keep an eye on for, because I believe last year 10th place was ranked at 280, and then first was ranked at 30. I mean, Texas, I think, was 312, and then Georgia was second at 303. When in the past, you've seen teams be ranked 10th at like 270s, 260s even.
Yeah.
So, maybe your ranking is staying the same, but there's a bit closer of a gap between that 1st and 10th ranked team in the composite rankings.
Yeah, and I mean, like, obviously it's a competitive venture, so it matters to an extent, but your relative standing doesn't matter as much as the actual talent you're bringing in. Like, if you had the 10th best class in America, but there was a massive gap in talent between 10 and 9, like, it wouldn't matter. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense here, but like having like, if the scores just end up being higher this year and you end up not being in the top 10 because of that, but you still have a score that would have been top 10 like last year, that's still a solid. You still get those players. You still get that talent. It doesn't matter as much where you're ranking specifically.
Yep. So I put into the class calculator, I added Samorion Wingo and DQ Fork, but I know Fork will push back, but we'll see what happens there. But I think of the names that haven't committed yet, that's one I'm looking at the most likely outside of Samorion Wingo. That puts us at 261. So you would need to find a way to get another 20, 30 points to get inside that top 5. Now, I said I think Isaiah Williams ends up in this class, so I'll put him in there. And obviously, you might also still lose some players that decommit, but I think right now for this exercise, we can just keep it here. So if you add Isaiah Williams, that would put you at 268.68. Of the two of Braylon Womack and Jake Cruel, who do you think we should add?
I mean, I think Cruel is which is kind of weird to say, but I almost feel like Cruel is the more likely get, even though he's not technically didn't include us as a finalist. Do you agree with that?
I wouldn't disagree with that, at least. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll add Jake Cruel. That puts us at 276. Now our class, again, I'll re-say this again. Our class last year was in the 287 and it was ranked 7th, but 5-point difference off of that top 5, and rankings fluctuate year on and year out based on points. So those would be our 2 highest ranked commits. Now, a name we've hinted at a lot in the show already that we're going to get onto later, someone who could end up in this class. There's been a lot of buzz recently around James Johnson, who's ranked 69th on the 247 composite. Some things happening with Georgia. It was recently reported that Florida, Texas, and Miami are still in heavy communication with him. And I've heard some really good things that could incline to him flipping to Florida. So I think maybe he's our addition to this class after Johnson or after Williams and Cruel. So I'll add him here. And at the addition of him, who's ranked 69th, that puts us at 281. Now that's with 23 players. So I think when you look at the question here, can the Gators get a top 5 class? I think the answer is yes. But you'd have to see something as, I know this last year we said we didn't think we'd get a top 10 class because of the quantity of players. It was reported we were going to go heavy into the portal, so our class would, maybe be inside the top 15, but we couldn't get inside the top 10. But then we end up getting nearly 290. So something like that could happen here, but I don't know how many more players are taking. Now, I mentioned a Sedarian Morgan. If we're able to flip him, we will take him no matter what. And I think we'd also keep the other guys on this roster. But outside of that, I don't know where the players come from to get this class into the top 5.
Yeah. It's like if the question is, can the Gators get a top 5 class? Like, yes. Will they? In all likelihood, no. I mean, it would take a lot and things we're not foreseeing right now. I think the path to a top 10 class is really straightforward. And I think a path to even a top 7 or 8 class is fairly reasonable. I don't think it would take a lot that we don't already. I think it would take what we expect to happen, and then like maybe 1 or 2 unexpected things. But
one thing I didn't include into this that I just thought of could be ranking bumps. True. Now, I had a Forkba, who is someone I expect to get a pretty nice bump here on in the future.
Yeah.
I think Kendall Gervil is someone also get a bump. KJ Ford is someone who has the potential to rise. Justin Williams, maybe. But then those lower rated guys, I think Chancellor Campbell and Tyler Chikuyum, they're guys who are projected to give you 1.5 to 1 points. You give those guys a little bit of a bump to where they're giving you 2 to 3 points. That 281 could push you to 285 or even higher, which gets you maybe near where you were last year. But then I think if you want to get inside that top 5, you got to find a way to land like 2 5-stars, which would be like a Jake Kroll and Braylon Womack and Sedarian Morgan or someone else that we're not talking about right now.
Yeah, I mean, if things break extremely the right way, you could get at least close to there just by major boosts and rankings. You said we're not taking that into account. To me, like that's kind of a wash because we're not taking that into account, but we're also not taking into account the possibility of any of these guys that are currently committed leaving the class. So, that kind of evens out on that front to me. Like, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think it's exactly what you said. I think Florida has to get 2 5-stars, and really right now, unless they just get in there for someone who which I mean, to be fair, that's kind of what Dallas Wilson was last year. Like, Florida got in there very late for him. I mean, obviously they were a factor in his recruitment, but it didn't really sound like there was any chance of that happening until very late in the process. So maybe you get something like that to happen again. But as of right now, it kind of seems like if it's going to happen, it's going to have to be Braylon Womack and Jake Kroll. I agree with you.
Something also I think is interesting to look at. The state of Florida rankings last year, there were 14 players. So, and go on, even go 18 players inside the top 125 of the 247 composite. So there was more room to flip a bunch of highly rated players that were local that you had a chance at, but wanted to see some more. This year there's 12, and then inside the top 125 is 14. So that's -2 on the top 100 and -4 on the top 150. Like that 1 or 2 players right there could be a huge difference in your ranking bump right there. So that's also something that could be holding us down. I think another interesting name that we haven't talked about, who's ranked 145th and I know is someone we haven't really communicated much with, but based on the name alone, Aiden Pouncey, it's someone I heard we weren't really looking at too much, but committed to Notre Dame, out of Winter Park, obviously related to all the Pounceys. I mean, if we miss on Womack, Devin Jackson end up coming to Oregon, someone they're really high on. If they want a second safety, or I know Caden Hall, there's people that say he might be more of a linebacker at the next level, or at least in the NFL. Then, I mean, college, you can still be a safety, but maybe they want to go and push on a true safety, and that could be Aiden Pouncey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they got the connections there. I mean, obviously, like you said, wasn't really a priority earlier on in the cycle. Maybe that changes. I mean, you did just add all those safeties this past season, but I think so. I don't think you have to go and make that a priority, but I think if you're going to, that would be a pretty logical name.
All right, but overall here, we can, yes, but if I were to give odds, I'd say it's probably less than like 5%.
Yeah. I think realistically, like the realistic ceiling here is probably like 7. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I just think the rankings fluctuate so much year on year out. So it's like based on those points. So yeah, I don't think we can get top 5, but maybe 8, 7 or 8.
Yeah.